As the war between the fascist and communist forces continues to rage, the National Security Intelligence Service has begun to work on a high-priority project, the development of our jet fighter. Taking inspiration from the fascists and combining it with the UK and USK's technological expertise, Leon, Will, and myself, Rob, have started assembling the prototype. This new aircraft will be a radical departure from traditional designs. It will feature a more blended body. This will be a twin-engine jet fighter, but a single-nose air intake will be sufficient. Even with two jet engines, the thrust produced may still be less than desirable until our understanding of jet engines increases. Besides the design of the body, another feature that drastically sets this plane apart is the layout of the wings. The main wing is set to the rear of the craft, and a small set of canards are placed near the cockpit. Propeller-driven planes typically have their engines mounted far to the front, necessitating large wings near the front to balance the center of aerodynamic pressure near the center of mass. With this plane, however, the engines are mounted much closer to the back, so more of the lifting surface needs to be near the rear of the plane to keep it stable. I believe that going forward, jet fighters will be the norm, and that the work we're doing will have lasting influence on the future of fighter plane design. The horizontal wings may look backwards compared to this plane's contemporaries. The vertical stabilizer, however, is using a much more traditional style. Its large size will help keep the plane stable in the yaw axis. From here, we begin making the necessary tweaks to balance out the center of mass and the center of aerodynamic pressure. We want them to be very close to aid in the fighter's maneuverability, yet the center of mass still needs to remain in front lest the craft become entirely uncontrollable. By making very small changes to the wings' angle of attack and their positions along the fuselage, we can greatly affect the plane's aerodynamic center. And in balancing the aerodynamics, we also need to keep in mind how fuel usage will shift the center of mass. Ideally, we will try to keep it stable from fully fueled to empty. The team continues to make small adjustments to the wings and is able to get the balance looking about right on the prototype. Only through testing will we be able to properly fine-tune the plane, but it's getting pretty close. The next step is to install the plane's armament. What we have learned so far from this conflict is that larger calibers are needed to engage the latest fascist planes and armored fighting vehicles. The venerable 50 cal will no longer be able to compete. So, we have decided to mount 4 20mm cannons into the nose. Again, the fuel loadout and exact placement of the wings are refined until the exact location for placing the landing gear can be determined. On this fighter, using a tricycle arrangement makes more sense, as there aren't any large propellers that we would need to worry about clipping into the runway. For about 2 years now, the three of us have been actively involved in resisting the fascists. I am thinking that it would be good for us to take a leave of absence from the National Security Intelligence Service. Since my country is still neutral, I'm thinking that we should spend a little time on one of our tropical island territories. What's the worst thing that could happen to us there? Getting a little too green from spending too much time on the beach? Little did we know, just as we were taking off, so were the fighters and dive bombers from the IKN Red Castle, allies to the fascists fighting against Will's and Leon's countries. Just before dawn, the first Imperial Navy fighter took off from the carrier. The target is Kearl Harbor. Having been lured into a false sense of peace, my nation is about to wake up to the reality that we are now a part of the Kerbin Konflict, whether we want to be or not. Many of my nation's premier warships are moored at Kearl Harbor. A decisive attack here could cripple our eastern fleet, leaving our nation extremely vulnerable. It so happens, though, that none of our aircraft carriers are here today, as they are currently performing exercises. It is likely the Imperial Navy did not anticipate that. It's still pretty early in the morning on what is typically a day off. As the attack commences, Leon attempts to make contact with the harbor. Most of the sailors and air kerbals are just waking up, with very few being at their duty stations. It looks like a few have realized what is happening and have rushed to return fire. Unfortunately, very few, if any, of the fighters stationed near the harbor have been able to take off. The Imperial Navy is able to destroy most of them on the ground. The KSS Carazona, docked in Battleship Row, has drawn the attention of a group of Val dive bombers. The first one is knocked out. Will and I listen to the battle on the radio, yet we are still too far out to be of any help. Once again, we are helpless to alter the outcome. A second Val dives towards the battleship. Its bomb lands short, while the plane strafes the ship. The 7.7mm rounds do little to the mighty vessel. Perhaps some of her paint is scratched. This is now 2 times lucky. Will her luck hold, or will the Imperial Navy hit their mark? The harbor itself has taken a direct hit. Most of the base is damaged. Now, a third Val lines up on the battleship. The dive bomber approaches from the ship's bow and releases its 500-kilogram bomb. It's a direct hit on the forward magazine. The ship's in trouble. With that, the damage has been done. The fighters and bombers of the Imperial Navy begin to make their way back to their carriers. We are fast approaching the base, but it looks as if we will be far too late to be of any use. We race over the big island at top speed. Perhaps we can still do some good. Leon is able to see the smoke in the distance. He informs us that the harbor is a mess. The radio chatter is chaotic. A local civilian station has been covering the attack. Some are not even sure what nation has attacked us, although the local reporter has correctly surmised that they are from the Imperial Navy, allied with the fascists. As we get closer, Will and I are able to see the damage for ourselves. Ships are damaged, the harbor has been thoroughly wrecked, and yet, the base is still there, with a functioning runway. This is likely why the enemy has left like they did. The base is still a threat to their carriers, and they have no clue where ours are. Our nose has been bloodied, but a sleeping giant has just awakened. The base may look bad, but I'm betting we can repair it quickly. As we drop down to land, I just know that there are brilliant minds calculating how we will be able to strike back. And, just as I suspected, a young Army Air Corps officer has come up with one of the craziest retaliatory strikes in all of military history. With our Eastern Navy crippled, this young officer wants to use our most valuable remaining assets on what sounds like a hopeless and risky attack. But I guess it's something. And his idea has been given the green light. They are even naming this operation after him, calling it the DD Raid. The United States of Kerbin strikes back.